From Milwaukee, Wisconsin, it's Wisconservation, a podcast that shines light on Wisconsin's conservation issues, research, and practices through thought-provoking conversations. Today I'm here with Samantha Lammers, the Aquatic Invasive Species Coordinator for Washington and Waukesha counties in Southeastern Wisconsin. Sam and I had a really fun conversation about enforcement and things that we both dealt with on the job as aquatic invasive species coordinators, from people we've dealt with to situations we've been in. So hopefully you really enjoy this episode. Okay.
Hello.
Hey, Sam.
Hi.
So, Sam, you're the AIS coordinator for Southeast Wisconsin in Washington and Waukesha counties.
Correct.
AIS. What is that?
That is Aquatic Invasive Species. So I work on coordinating our Clean Boats, Clean Waters program for both counties. I assist DNR with doing point intercept surveys, early detection monitoring, any region-specific things like starry stonewort, and doing education and outreach. You know starry stonewort well. So.
Yeah, I'm a little familiar. For people that aren't, so that all sounds super technical, right?
Yes.
What is the importance of doing all this? Before we get into anything specific, why is coordinating aquatic invasive species a thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
And who hires you?
What
is this all about?
Yes. I could spend quite a bit of time on this. So I would say Wisconsin is essentially a gathering of waters. We just have so much water in the state, and it needs to kind of be regulated. And my job, or what I think my job is to advocate for lake owners, people who want to use the water and recreate, just anyone who thinks that water is important, whether that is because they are a landowner, whether it's because they enjoy recreating on it, whether natural resource protection is important to them. And then my role is to kind of do that education and outreach. So I don't do a lot of the control stuff. We have a ton of partners that are willing to do those control efforts. But I get the word out. I get my face out there. We have educational events. We meet on the landing. We do trainings and all sorts of things. So it's just really important, I think, to have a collaborative effort. So we talk about that a lot, and that there are a lot of AIS coordinators throughout the whole entire state. But AIS doesn't stop at a border. So we have to work collectively with all of our partners just to ensure that aquatic invasive species control and education is a statewide effort, if not a completely global effort.
Totally. Yeah. That makes so much sense. So here in Wisconsin, where we're in Southeast Wisconsin bordering Lake Michigan, obviously there has to be a way that invasive species are coming in through the Great Lakes. So Lake Michigan connects to all the other Great Lakes and the St. Lawrence Seaway. Do you see, as ships are coming in, do you see aquatic invasive species brought in that way? Or do you see it more from the West Coast, people coming that way? Or how do you see these things coming into our area?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a couple of kind of what we call super spreaders, and Lake Michigan and Lake Superior are two huge ones.
It sounds that makes it sound like a good thing.
Yeah,
super.
Not super as in massive, not in a good way. But we also have the Mississippi River. So if you think about it, Wisconsin is surrounded by super spreading opportunity. The Lake Michigan, Lake Superior, they have 186-ish, probably more by now, invasive species that update. Wow. Yeah, that number gets updated every year, but the majority of the invasive species that we have in our inland lakes come from Lake Michigan, come from ballast water.
Okay.
And then they also are, if you look at kind of trending patterns, a lot of aquatic invasive species are kind of clustered in the southeast region of the state, so they come up through the borders from Illinois. Unless you're talking about something like Phragmites, which is kind of split listed east and west, which is a unique and interesting topic we can talk about later too. But usually the trend goes from the southeast, and the southern part of the state has more invasive species, and they kind of start to creep their way up into the northwoods.
That makes sense that makes sense in my mind, in the fact that we're the most populated area of Wisconsin, in Southeast Wisconsin. So it's almost the more people you have, the more opportunities you have for somebody to have a boat filled with water with an invasive species in it that's going to travel from Milwaukee or Lake Michigan to like a big lake inland, like Big Cedar Lake in West Bend or Pewaukee Lake in Waukesha.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We have a lot of uniqueness here too in Waukesha. I have worked statewide in the past doing environmental aquatic invasive species programs, and I also was the coordinator for Manitowoc and Sheboygan.
Okay.
But down in Waukesha, Waukesha has 108 lakes just in the county. Yes.
Yeah.
And not all of them have public access, but if you're talking just in terms of like distance between lakes, Waukesha really absolutely has like that close proximity as well. So when you're lake hopping, people can go to 3-4 lakes a day if they want to. It's a heavily populated area, so you might show up at Pewaukee Lake and you have to wait. You have to queue to get in, and you don't want to. So you just turn around and go somewhere else, and you know, all of these lakes are in close proximity, so that preventing that spread, even just with that education, is extremely important, especially here in Waukesha and Washington counties.
Totally. So when I was AIS coordinator, I remember people saying, like, we were on Pewaukee Lake and there were so many people on it that we just got up and we went to Neshota Lake.
Yep.
Like so that's lake hopping,
yes,
right? When you say lake hopping?
Absolutely. Fishing tournaments is lake
Sure,
hopping.
okay.
So anybody who moves around from water body to water body, that is one of our main concerns when we're trying to slow or stop the spread, right? You'll have conversations with people on the landing who they are fishermen, they get out every day, so they are on the lake every day, so you would think automatically, oh my goodness. But they go to the same lake every single day, every single morning. So their vector of spread is not all that high if you think about it. But when the lakes are just right, you could throw a baseball to 6 lakes standing in one place.
Yeah, and so that brings up an interesting point, because your job is so important in communicating with different people on those lakes. And as you know, Lake Country Clean Waters, I like how Tanner's just hanging out.
I have a buddy today. I love him.
Lake Country Clean Waters is a nonprofit in Southeast Wisconsin, in that area that I'm heavily involved with. And the goal there is to educate people on the lakes, but it's really difficult because, well, lakes, rivers, and streams, right? We don't want to be specific to just lakes.
Yeah.
But
there's no boundary lines to water here.
But it's difficult to communicate, to have them all communicate with each other.
Absolutely.
So it's like pretty crazy when you think about the fact that you could throw a baseball to 6 different lakes.
And they never talk to each other.
Like, how do you get people to talk to each other in that scenario?
Yes.
Like, because if starry stonewort, which is an invasive algae, came into one of those 6 lakes, I mean, the potential is super high that it could get. I mean, somebody could literally get a bucket of water, and I'm sure some kid has taken one bucket of water and just dumped it into another lake because they don't even know.
Yeah.
If that has starry stonewort bulbils in it or some sort of reproductive structure, that's in a new lake. So how does that...
I got my headphones.
Oh, buddy.
We're good.
So how does that... Like, how do you get people to talk and get these issues on the table as, like, really important issues?
Yeah. So, and I think that most lake associations or protection and rehabilitation districts and advancement associations, there's so many names, which is maybe part of the problem too.
Like organizations.
So,
like
organizations.
Yeah.
They understand the importance of it, but again, I think just really, first of all, my visibility. So they need to all know that I'm here and this is what I look like, and I'm doing, outreach activities like this so people know that I'm available to answer questions and assist.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately, like having something like Starry Stonewort, you were the coordinator years ago. Yeah. Would you say the communication between lakes are a ton better?
Yeah, I mean,
because of something like that issue?
When something bad happens, people take action, right? Yeah. And the terrible part of something, it's almost like a really fulfilling job that has like this other side to it, right?
Yes.
Because it's like you're doing your job most effectively when people know about the crappy stuff that's happening on their lakes.
Yes. So you're the bearer of bad news.
Like
you
all
come
the time.
In. You come in and you're like, you love your lake and it's beautiful. Now let me tell you all the reasons you got to keep it up.
Exactly.
Yes.
Oh man, yeah. It's interesting to have that be a job, but it's also like, when you're not there, how do people communicate?
Yes. So that's part of the job is like,
because there's only one of you, and there's 108 lakes in one county.
Yes.
I mean, that's a huge undertaking.
Yes.
As one person.
And some people have more than 2 counties, some coordinators.
Yeah.
So again, I think it's just that you have to like teach those lakes to advocate for themselves, and part of that is allowing them to communicate with each other and knowing that they're all out there and things like that. And even something as simple, we have a monthly update for Waukesha County where I kind of do an AIS update to whatever's relevant that month. And this year I decided to do like Lake of the Month. So we're going to showcase a lake and why it's beautiful. And I want these homeowners and the people involved in the lake to advocate for their lake. Like, tell me the fun facts and the history of your lake. And then that way everyone can learn.
That's
so
sweet.
Everyone from all the other lakes can like learn and have contact information or at least names of people on these other lakes that they can reach out to.
Oh, cool.
So I think we're going to help kind of start those conversations or at least allow those channels to be there.
That's really cool. So are you like, that's really funny because Lake Country Clean Waters also was considering Lake of the Month.
Yes.
So we should
That's awesome.
collaborate.
Yes. Let's have twice as many lakes.
Right.
I love it. Well, there's plenty to choose from,
exactly.
so we could.
So do you communicate with the people on the lake and say, hey, who's the contact person from your lake? Like, what are some fun facts that aren't on the DNR website? Or
Yes. Yeah.
Because you can get like what kind of fish species
So
are
I do
there.
that as well. So I'll start by doing the lake facts, which
Okay.
is literally what I get off the DNR website.
Yeah.
So the size, the depth,
Right,
the,
acres, whatever.
Yeah, and then it'll tell you on the DNR website if anyone's interested what invasive species are in the lake as well.
And is that accurate?
It is kind of accurate. I think there's probably a backlog of about a year or so. It has all that information and I post that. And then we're going to, I reach out to, some of us have Clean Boats, Clean Waters contacts. So we have IGAs or intergovernmental agreements with some lakes.
Nice.
So we are able to hire a Clean Boats, Clean Waters inspector on that landing. And they have me as kind of a Clean Boats, Clean Waters supervisor. And they also have what I call a landing supervisor, who is just somebody from the lake who took on that responsibility themselves.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, so I reach out to them. I reach out to if they have an association of any sort. I reach out to the board members and try to get their input as well as then ask, is there anyone else? I've made contacts just by checking in on those Clean Boats, Clean Waters.
Sure.
Yeah, interns or spending time on the lake. So that is really important to me to just be visible for people to see me on the landing. Whenever there's a hand pull, again, I'm not in charge of control. I can help facilitate control, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to be there to answer questions or help ID or do whatever needs to be done.
Exactly.
So,
do the actual grunt work of going and hand pulling.
Yes.
So
getting leeches and waist deep in muck. It's just I love it. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I'm
it is such a
happy.
cool job.
It
is such a cool job in the sense of you get to be like a community. You get to like bring people in the community together. You get to be a leader of this topic that like you have like a pretty solid following of people who know about it and care about it.
Yes.
But you also have the majority of people who have no idea what it means.
Yes.
And the majority of people who still recreate on lakes like every day, like people who live on lakes every day. And they literally don't know they've never heard the acronym AIS, or they've never heard of aquatic invasive species, or
any type of species that's in their lake.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They just kind of think it's weeds. They call it weeds. I hear weeds a lot.
Yep.
Weeds. You have no idea whether
weeds
it's
and
native
fish.
or
there's
invasive.
Weeds and there's fish,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And then there's snakes and we stay away.
Yes. Big snapping turtles.
But yeah, and then you have other people too who like come from Milwaukee, Milwaukee is a heavily populated area with no freshwater bodies except for Lake Michigan.
Correct.
So inland, like when I say inland from Lake Michigan, if people don't go to the actual like Lake Michigan coast, they don't interact with freshwater ever.
Correct.
So if they go to an inland lake to go fishing or go swimming or do any of that stuff, right, it's just weeds to them.
Yep. It's weeds and water.
How cool is it to be able to like educate those types of people who just have no clue, and then all of a sudden like they're making these connections of like, wow, there's like a whole other world underwater that is like happening underneath.
It is. Even last week I was out at a lake in Washington County and I was boring through the ice to get some starry stonewort samples. But there was a gentleman out there with just 2 younger kids, and the kids were just playing on the ice, and that's why they were there. And like I got my arm deep and I'm starting pulling stuff up, and the kids are like, what is all of this?
Right.
Like
what are you doing?
They wanted to know, and they wanted like technicality. They were asking me, well, what is this one? Well, what is this one? And they understood the difference between them. So it was kind of cool. I got to do an educational event in the middle of winter in Wisconsin.
It's so dope to see kids like just start to get it.
Yeah.
And like realize that like this is important. And the other cool thing that's cool about teaching kids this stuff is like they bring it home. And they bring it to their parents who are like, oh, we're just going lake hopping. You know, we're going from this lake to this lake. And the kid will, I've totally seen this happen at the boat launch.
I was going to say, it's my secret weapon is to make kid packs and hand them out to the kids and do all my education to the kids and then send them back to their parents.
Because the dad will pull the boat out and start driving away. And the kid will be like, didn't you take all the weeds off?
Dad, we have to stop.
There's zebra mussels on there. Yeah.
Mom, did you rinse down everything? Did you check the live well? They're amazing. They are like the best advocates without even knowing they are.
And they're still flexible so they can get under the boat and actually remove the stuff.
Toss them under, and then you give them a tattoo and some wild cards and they're good to go. So,
that's cool.
It's amazing.
Oh man, did you bring any tattoos?
I didn't. I can next time.
All right,
have sounds
to come back. So I could use an AIS tattoo.
Yes. I think I'm down to zebra mussels and spiny waterfowl.
Wow, you've really gone through them.
Yeah.
Gone through all the Eurasian water milfoils. I was thinking about, so I'm considering getting my first tattoo, and I was thinking about getting like Eurasian water milfoil and starry stonewort like up my arm.
Yeah.
And I was like, this would be pretty cool, but I don't know if I'm ready to put invasive species on myself.
Yes, the coordinator between you and I has a starry stonewort bulbil.
Really?
She
Cassie?
does, yep.
No way.
Yep.
Shout out to Cassie.
Yes, shout out to Cassie. Cassie and Molly Bodie both got them together.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Man, I
and
gotta
they
join
look
that
great.
team.
So,
do they really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Maybe I'll do that.
So it might, inch you closer to the decision.
Yeah, just, I don't know if I trust a tattoo artist to put between 12 and 24 leaflets.
It's true. There are very definite parameters that need to be followed.
Can you imagine describing that to your tattoo artist? Like, okay, look,
I would just bring one of the laminates in and set it down and be like, it's got to be this right here.
It's the wrong species if there's less than 12.
Yes.
It's northern water milfoil.
Just bring both. They look exactly the same.
Like doing an entire AIS education lesson to...
There you go. Man, a group of people we wouldn't normally consider tattoo artists. I think it's taken off. So.
I think so. We need to get a tattoo artist to just start commissioning like all of the different species.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
That'd be a cool scene. An underwater aquatic invasive like on the arm.
Yes.
That'd be pretty cool.
Just low back. Get the whole thing.
Man. Just growing up.
Make it happen.
And then like the top of the water right at the shoulders.
It's a really long curly leaf pondweed all the way up.
Oh man, it was funny. I commissioned a local artist, Elena Grade, to put this cool mural up.
This is amazing.
And yeah, she painted all these native flowers, and I was like, do only native species. And then she, I know.
I see it.
I know.
I wasn't gonna say
she put it on there, and she also put a Queen Anne's lace. And I told her,
it makes it pop. It's beautiful.
I know. I told her to only do native species, and then I'm pretty sure she Googled invasive plants and what is that one? Wild parsnip.
Wild parsnip. I have the scars too.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm pretty sure she Googled wild parsnip just to mess with me.
Oh yeah.
And put it on there, and then Queen Anne's lace to mess with me.
When I turned, I went, oh
I know.
my goodness, it's there.
Like, watch out.
Yep.
Don't touch it.
Oh my gosh.
So as an aquatic invasive species person, coordinator, you said you have like wild parsnip burns?
Yes,
Is that from aquatic?
Yes, that was
wild
from
parsnip
last
an
year.
Aquatic invasive species?
No, so it is a terrestrial. We do have some species that kind of buffer. But again, when you're in a scenario, if you're on a homeowner's property, like who are you to ignore everything else that you know and just focus on the one thing? So I was doing some work on a guy's like ditchway, and he had he had multifloral rose that was bothering him. Yeah, he wanted me to ID some Japanese knotweed, which is another kind of nasty one. But there was one sprig of the. Yeah.
Just one?
Just
and it got you?
Yep.
Oh, man.
And I saw it like the second time I visited. I'm like, oh, that one's huge. But by that time, I had no idea where I got my bird
and that's
from.
where it was.
Yep.
It makes total sense. Oh, man.
Yeah. So there are some like wetland plants that we have a concern in. As a aquatic invasive species coordinator, we deal with two purple loosestrife. We have Phragmites, things of that nature. Yep. Yellow iris is a big one. It's popping up everywhere. I vouchered it
everywhere.
Yeah, I vouchered like 6 of them around lakes just in this past year alone.
So that's crazy because they must sell it at stores, because here, I mean, in this neighborhood in spring, you walk around and it's like everybody has yellow irises in their front yards.
Yeah. So I think it was actually part of the update. If I might be mistaken on that.
Of the update?
Yeah. So in 2014, we had an update to our NR40. And then when we do have an update to the NR40, there is a time period that nurseries can still sell stuff based on what it is.
Okay.
So it could be, that some of that was implemented. Again, there are other concerns, which, I'm an aquatic invasive species coordinator. My job is to educate, but the root systems are stronger than the blue flag iris. So a lot of these lakes have erosion control issues right now, and the yellow iris is doing its job.
Sure. It's holding that shoreline together. And it's better. I mean, when you have like a cost/benefit of putting up a pretty yellow iris flower, or like a big section of concrete riprap.
Correct.
I mean, what looks better?
You
what's
want
healthier?
A native or a more natural, not native,
right,
but
more
natural
look.
option.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So even though it's not native.
Yes, and I'll always advocate for the native. I'm always like, go buy the blue flag.
Right, exactly.
Go plant
you're like,
blue
well,
flag.
it's 30 cents more.
Yes.
Can I tell you something funny?
Sure.
Okay. So
hang on, let me get my beverage.
Yeah. So through the backyard here. So we're at my house in Wauwatosa. Through the backyard, there's a guy who was growing purple loosestrife as like a big garden plant, and it was like the pinnacle of his garden. It was like this beautiful big purple loosestrife. And one day he was out mowing his lawn, and I was walking my dog by, and I like flagged him down, and I was like, "Hey man, like
educational
so
opportunity,
crazy, yeah, so crazy. Like, did you know? Did you know that this is an invasive species, and that it spreads really easily, and you shouldn't have this in your yard because it's actually illegal?" And he's like, "Wow." He's like pretty much like F off.
Yep.
Like, we don't want to talk about that.
It's pretty. Am I allowed to possess it? Well, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna do nothing about it. So at the same time, in my yard, I was growing Galarusella beetles.
I was just gonna say, let me know I grow beetles this year.
I totally did a covert mission.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
Biocontrol.
basically, so you can grow these beetles called Galarusella beetles.
And we do in Waukesha and Washington counties.
And I have a shirt that says like the beetles are coming. Incredible. It's amazing.
Oh my gosh, I want a shirt.
It's got purple loosestrife on it. I'll show it to you after the podcast. It's really funny. But you grow these beetles and they just eat purple loosestrife. They're biocontrol, right? Yeah. So I was growing like 6 pots of these beetles, and what do you put in 10 and it turns into like 1,000?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So they reproduce like crazy. You feed them purple loosestrife until they kill the plant. Then you go and put them out in the wild. Well, I took one of the plants worth, like 1,000's worth. Totally nudged.
I'm not advocating.
Nudged them in this guy's yard. So I'm really curious to see
what kind of damage has been done.
Like if his purple loosestrife is growing next year, or if it's all mangled.
My first, so I got hired in like 2014. I think that was the year I met you too.
Yeah.
So I got hired originally with the DNR, and I worked with them for a while. And I remember.
Make sure this is still going.
Yeah, I remember my first week that I was hired. I was at home, and I was in this like subdivision, and I noticed these Phragmites that were in this ditch, and the guy I was dating at the time was mortified. I walked right up to that homeowner and I like knocked on the door and I was like, so I'm just wondering, like, I've been here a lot and I've never seen these before. And it was an educational opportunity. They didn't want to look at their 4-way stop anymore. So they went to Colarandre and dug a bunch up and brought them back and planted them in their ditch. And I just, and so like a lot of that, I mean, you can call it ignorance, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, because there's a ton of things I don't know in the world. There's a ton of things we all don't know.
Totally.
So a lot of it, I would say 80% of it is an educational opportunity to change behavior.
Right.
But yeah, it's something that
so
it gets to the point where you try and they kind of tell you to F off,
no,
where you're like, okay, now what?
Exactly. It's like, well, I'm going to take this into my own hands. So that's tough because Phragmites. I mean, so was that in Brown County? Or
no, that was in Sheboygan.
Oh, okay, so right below Brown County.
Yes.
So,
that whole corridor coming up
Wisconsin,
43 for
like
Phragmites.
Sheboygan, up to Green Bay, all through there, it's like full of Phragmites.
Yeah, if you go either of the big bridges in Green Bay and look down, it's just ice solid as far as the eye can see. It's crazy.
And there's been some huge restoration projects. Like there's one at Bay Beach. That amusement park. I remember visiting that once and just being like, wow, they took helicopters, they took like giant tractors, they took all like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment to go in and like destroy this stuff, and then it just comes right back.
Yep.
Like there's no destroying.
Well,
it.
there's 4 different ways it reproduces.
Yeah.
It's insanity.
There's 4 different ways?
Yeah, so
How?
it has a root system that's very shallow
Okay.
and goes underground and can choke out everything.
Okay.
Maybe 3. I don't know how to count. Secondly, it has these root systems that are just above ground that can, like rhizomes
Oh my
that
God.
spread. And then it also reproduces through its seed
Like
heads.
it's actual
Yeah.
regular reproduction.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it really is just incredible.
Yeah, I've heard like, so Phragmites, I've heard if you cut it up and like throw it on the ground, it'll just start growing. Like even like a chunk of
Yes,
it.
yeah. So
Like,
I mean, those are those like little rhizomes can kind of show up from everywhere
Man.
depending on how like
that's so
aggressive
crazy.
and robust it is. So we do a lot of like, I tell landowners too that have just little patches to kind of cut the seed heads that'll take that away, and then maybe do some of your own like batching and poisoning if you get a chance.
Do you like just use like Roundup on it?
Yeah. Yep.
So if you can identify it as Phragmites, yeah, like if somebody's listening to this and they're like, I think I might have Phragmites, like what could they do?
Call me. Absolutely.
All right.
My phone number is 262-483-9687, or like text is great. So I get
Okay.
text. So
Yeah.
I really, when I get the word out there, I try to give my number to everyone. And then I say, it's just send me stuff.
Yeah.
Send me pictures.
Yeah.
Send me pictures. I even
Sure.
have pet stores, people that are like, supervisors in pet stores when
Really?
they get in. When they get bait fish in, sometimes they get like crayfish, which is weird. Sometimes they get a lot of snails. Snails come in all the time.
Sure. Snails,
I-
I've seen snails in fish tanks at the fish store.
Yes,
Like
and-
they get the goldfish, but then the snail
Yes.
just comes in with the water.
So, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So the bait fish, which are goldfish, or the bait fish that they feed to other things.
Yeah. Like
Which is, I
turtle
have to
food?
shout out to my intern, Mackenzie, last year. So she worked at a pet store for like 6 years.
Okay.
So I didn't know any of this. I knew to do, like I would do pet store checks, but I never understood like where that vector of spread
Sure,
came in from,
sure.
unless you were deliberately like ordering these things.
Right. Like you
Which
can order,
happens
you
because
can order
they
it
don't
on
know
the
any
internet.
better.
Right,
You can order rusty crayfish on the internet, no problem.
You can.
Oh yeah.
So I could go right now.
Yeah.
I could Google like
Well,
rusty crayfish.
so
for
you want to
sale.
know something crazy?
I kinda
When I'm
want-
making educational materials,
Yeah.
I do like Google searches to
Yeah.
try to find like
Oh, no.
pictures. The first thing that pops up if you Google search purple loosestrife or yellow iris is where to buy it. It's the first
Man.
thing that pops up for any of those things. So,
Man. So do you have to reach out to those people then?
depending on what it is. So
Yeah.
we have kind of a organisms and trade grouping amongst the DNR that focuses on that
Okay,
stuff.
okay.
And we do, as coordinators, bait shop checks, pet store checks. We have nursery inspectors that we can educate with NR40. So when they are doing their inspections, they can go through and do that stuff. So it really is this, like you said, this coordinated effort of thousands
It's like
of people.
a huge network.
Yeah, and how do we all talk to each other and stay on the same page?
Yeah.
That is the question.
It's amazing.
Incredible.
I mean, the work you do spreads so far and wide. I mean, you could have a day of work and have it be out on a lake talking to like a lake owner who's like a rich person who spends half the time in Florida and they're just there to boat. Or you could be going to like a pet store and talking about like
Absolutely.
worms or
Jumping
like,
worms, anything. Yeah. I have
That's
in the summer, I
crazy.
have 14-hour days because you started at 5 a.m. with the fishermen
Yeah.
and you're doing the outreach. Then you do a couple of lake surveys or one lake survey throughout the day. And then you have lake association meetings at night and you're done at 9 or 10 at night. So... But
That's
you get
crazy.
to do different stuff. I
Yeah,
don't know. I wouldn't
it's
trade
so-
it for the
I
world.
mean,
the days go by like, the days go by like
yeah.
fast.
It's totally different than any other job you'll ever have.
It's true.
Like
Yep.
it's yeah. And
I get so much job satisfaction. It's
that's
crazy.
awesome.
Yeah.
It's so cool. And you literally make people's days because you're like helping them out and showing them, or you're ruining people's days sometimes.
Every time I do any sort of like education or outreach, and especially I just started in May for Waukesha and Washington. So,
Okay.
the first 2 months, when you start in May and it's already field season, you got this scramble to like meet
Yes.
everybody and
Yeah.
have everyone know who you are as fast as they can.
Yeah.
So I'm going to all these meetings and and I'm like, I don't know how to describe myself. High energy. And that's
They're
all
like,
they
"No."
literally, everyone would introduce me to everyone else by, this is Sam, she has really high energy. And then I'm like, I would call it passion, but thanks guys.
Yeah, high energy.
Yep, that was all I was known as. Like, Samantha Lammers has high energy.
It's good to know, though. Better to be known for high energy than low energy.
Yeah. So apparently I'm very passionate about aquatic invasive
Yeah, I think I got that a lot, too, sometimes.
Yep.
Like, hey, Brad was enthusiastic.
Yes, enthusiastic. That's the other word.
A really nice way of saying too much.
Like, wow, she came in hot. Like, that's... Yep,
but you need
what
to
I'm
do
known
that.
for.
I mean...
You have to, because then they remember you, too.
Totally.
That's the whole point.
And like it's so crazy that part of your job, I mean, it isn't part of your job, but it turns into part of your job is just people, like you said, or you said this already, but people knowing who you are.
Yeah.
Like you have to be someone that people remember, that people can talk to and be
that
like,
people
oh, yeah,
want
Sam,
to text
Sam.
a picture and won't feel stupid because they don't know what it is and they're afraid
Exactly.
to send it to anybody.
And just like think about it.
Yeah.
Like if I am I would, because I've been
You.
in your position and I'm a total nerd when it comes to species.
Me too.
But if I'm like a person on a lake and I'm just thinking like, wow, that's a crazy algae ball.
Just
you're
anything.
like,
I get algae balls all the time.
You're
It's true, because they look alien-esque, right? And that's always my sell, is I always
your quote
tell
from
people,
today is,
yes,
I get algae balls.
I get algae balls all the time. Yes, all the time in the summer. And then you know those algae blooms happen at different times on different lakes, depending on like the lake, like
so you're just getting balls
makeup.
texted you all summer.
Oh yeah. Oh,
better get algae balls texted you than other types.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. I have probably the most wholesome
right?
link of anybody anywhere. It's great.
What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, but that's what I was saying is like, so somebody normal who's just out on their lake doesn't know to text you that. Right? Because they're just like, oh, that's weird. I wonder what that is.
And they even
stuck.
take pictures.
Yeah.
And they
then
say, this is crazy.
Just wondering what that is. And it's like, no, dude, you have a total resource. Just text it to this person.
And I always say, if it's too big, if it's too small, if it's too colorful, or if it's too something else, like use all their senses. Like if it smells really bad, or I mean, let's be real, everything smells bad when you're out on a lake.
That's true.
Just, especially landowners, know what looks natural on your landscape.
Totally.
So when it doesn't, please tell somebody.
Yeah, when it's like lime, bright green and orange.
Or the bulbils. Starry Stormer bulbils.
Yeah, you're like, this is a star. Aliens. Yeah, it does. It totally looks like an alien. Yeah. Maybe it is an alien. I don't know. Do you think?
Oh gosh, I watched too much Ancient Aliens to go there.
Oh really? Mm-hmm. I wonder if they're trying to tell us something.
Oh my lord. Also, this was a terrible choice because I have I'm like burping so
Oh, me too. Also, I thought it was lemon, but it's actually pineapple.
Oh, that's okay. It's still refreshing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. What if it's underground? They're creating the same constellations that are echoed by the sky.
Wow. Oh man,
Whoa.
That's for the next chapter.
Okay, well, we're getting a little too deep. But no, it's true. They look super weird, and even if it's something that isn't invasive and you just think it's weird and you want to know what it is, even if it's something like a Illinois pondweed, like the most common plant you'll ever see, it's still like,
I had a guy in Washington send me forked duckweed. I had never seen it before.
Really?
And he had it in a bag. And when he sent it to me in Washington County,
Oh, okay. I was like, in Washington or Washington County?
No,
okay.
Washington County.
Yeah.
Yep. But I had never seen it, and to me, I love that challenge. I absolutely love that.
Oh yeah.
So I don't care. Yeah, I don't care if it's native or invasive or you want more information about it. Like that's why I'm here.
Exactly.
So
the cool part is you have like the knowledge and resources to find that stuff fast, like
faster than they would on a
Google
if you don't know search what it is, or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can never be sure. So is there a certification that comes with?
Yeah, so you can become a Wisconsin official verifier.
Okay.
So when we verify and voucher species in a lake, it needs to be verified by 2 different people who are official Wisconsin verifiers.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
So it's nice when I'm out with a DNR employee like Amy Kretlow, who's our Southeast region DNR coordinator. Yeah, shout out to Amy. Hey. When we're out, we're both verifiers. So if we find something crazy, we can just get it going right away, which is kind of cool.
That's cool. Okay.
Yeah. And it's not the easy. It took me 3 times.
Really? Really? Wow.
It did take me 3 tries. Yep.
All right, everybody. So she's not that legit.
Oh man, Sam's back again. And then imagine doing the first 2 surveys after that. They're like, man, somebody else looked through this. We don't trust her. It took her 3 times.
So is it just like a written test?
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it's
they show you pictures.
So it's a visual. Yep. They'll show you pictures or have samples, and you can kind of feel it and touch it. But it is a timed, written test.
Oh, it's timed too. Oh man.
And it's not even multiple choice.
Man, I have such bad test anxiety.
But at least you didn't have to do all that's so I have really bad test anxiety, and that was my issue. You put a time limit on anything and it's out the
same
window.
with me.
Yep.
I took my motorcycle license test last year. I shouldn't say this, but I failed the first time. I was the only person in my whole class.
You put a
I was
time
like the
limit
best
and
rider
yep.
in the whole like training of everything.
And I know, but I just need to think about it a little bit.
I had to do a U-turn and I like crashed the bike.
Oh my god!
I like should not be on the roads,
Yes.
but once I'm like,
but he's a lot better now.
But seriously, that test anxiety is real. It's a
yeah.
real thing.
Yep. And so like there was a multiple choice, but you didn't have to do like their official name, which is really nice.
How many are there?
I think we had 25 or 30.
And is it native and invasive?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's where it gets tricky because if you're talking about the milfoils, oh my goodness.
Yeah, you got to count those leaflets. And,
yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a really good process though. So that's kind of what triggered a lot of my, and that can be for another time too. So I started in like law enforcement. So as a warden,
really?
Yeah, doing an aquatic invasive species programming. So I had like half of both. I had the law enforcement aspect, and then I had also the invasive species aspect.
Wow.
So a lot of that was just the law enforcement and the enforcement versus the education for me.
Just for invasive species.
Yeah, aquatic invasive species.
Okay.
Yep. So and then it got to the point where I was taking this test. I'm like, oh, I don't need to know what all these are. Like this
Right.
is ridiculous. And then when I made that choice to leave the DNR and just become a just become an AIS
like
person, it's amazing. I just
Wow.
want to learn more and more every day. I'm always looking at some. Yeah.
That's so interesting. So Wisconsin has employees that are strictly, I want to get this right, strictly enforcement for aquatic invasive species.
We did.
You did?
Yes. We had something called the Water Guard program.
Okay.
So that was enforcement and education of aquatic invasive species. It was credentialed and non-credentialed conservation wardens.
Okay.
There were 12 of us throughout the whole state.
Okay.
And then I was the coordinator for that program for a few years. Yeah.
It sounds like such an important program when it comes to like enforcing people like we were talking about before, like going on boats from lake to lake and spreading, because that's probably, I would guess, the main way that invasive species spread.
It is within lake to lake. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Is that the boating and the angling are our top two vectors of spread. And so, it was amazing. So our big focus and what we did was change boater behavior. And that was through, we always start with education because like I said before, 80% of that is usually just people don't know and it's fine and you have a pleasant conversation with them.
Right.
And then we were able to do that enforcement action as well, which was awesome.
So you're rolling up to them
in full uniform.
With a gun?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep, in full uniform.
So you could write them tickets?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we wrote aquatic invasive species citation.
Wow.
So we're not doing this for fun. It's actually like law.
It is
statute.
a law.
You
wow.
cannot transport aquatic invasive species, vegetation or water from lake to lake, and they say that is on a highway and road, which is literally any road.
Okay.
So that is defined as you cannot travel with vegetation or water on your boat or trailer anywhere in the state.
So if I were to like have a boat out on my road right now and I had a weed hanging off of it, I would be illegal.
Correct.
Wow.
Yep, and it's like a $300 fine, $350.
Jeez, really?
Yep. Yeah.
So how is that enforced then? So you were enforcing it as an active police officer.
Yes. So as a credential law enforcement officer.
Yeah.
So this is a misconception too, is that any credential law enforcement officer in the state of Wisconsin can enforce NR40 law, whether that's invasive species law or any of our NR40 laws. So I know that kind of in the middle of the state, we've had a lot of support in like the Waukesha area. Is that AIS coordinator? He'll just call whoever is available.
Yeah, really?
Yep.
He'll just call the cops.
Yep.
He'll be like, yo.
Yeah. I mean, non-emergency number. It's obviously non-emergency. But yep. And you can get support from any county, state patrol, anything like that. And realistically, that doesn't happen a lot. But
So if somebody is traveling down the highway and they see somebody with a bunch of weeds hanging off their boat.
That is what Chris did. Chris Hammerlock.
Chris. Yeah, I know Chris.
AIS
Chris
coordinator.
Is awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
He saw someone just cruising down the road with a ton of weeds hanging off the trailer, and he called the cops.
Because I've definitely
And the guy came. He watched the cop pull the guy over.
No way.
Took care of business. Wrote him a citation. So.
Yeah.
But again, that's that communication. So a lot of cops don't even know they can do that.
Right.
So having that outreach or having those like law enforcement days with the wardens or with anybody else can kind of help too.
So is part of your job reaching out to local municipalities or state state people to know that they can do that? Because like I would imagine, like especially in Waukesha where they have 108 lakes. 108
and like 2 wardens.
Yeah.
1 warden.
You'd think that like educating like the local police would be really beneficial in saying like, hey, you guys
Well, and it is a mutually beneficial thing. So we're not just asking, them to do it.
Right.
If they kind of think this guy might have been drinking,
sure,
and he's weaving a little bit, but he's got a ton of weeds on the trailer, pull him over. That's it right there. Like you have,
what's it called? Like
probable
cause? Just cause, probable cause.
Yep.
Yeah. Man.
So it is kind of a mutually beneficial thing. If you end up not writing the citation for NR40, it's fine. But knowing that is like an option out there for you is awesome.
Right. So but snitches get stitches, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
I didn't say anything. I gotta go.
It's time. Yeah.
It's time.
On that note,
you
got like the gangbangers outside the door when we open it up.
I have to unfortunately get onto a landing and dig some more stuff out of the sediment.
Do you actually have to go?
I do.
Oh, okay. On that note, you actually have to go.
I didn't know how much of a joke I was going to make.
That's really funny because I thought you were actually joking, so that's hilarious. Well, this is cool. So we've been able. So we should get together again.
Yes,
this is awesome.
I would love to. I would love to be able to answer questions too at some time for anyone.
Because I have like more notes. I know it only looks like I have 4 things, but these lead to like a million things in my mind.
Just ready.
Okay, 2 things. Mm-hmm. One, plug whatever you want right now, like your number, Twitter.
Twitter. So my phone number, which I gave, but I'll give again, is 262-483-9687. I can accept text messages. Just please tell me who you are and which county you're at. That is helpful. I've had people just give me their name. Yeah. And then I'm like, sure. Some things are, we haven't found in Washington, but are in Waukesha and vice versa. So sometimes you guys give me heart attacks. But my email is my name, Samantha, Samantha, .Lammers, Lammers, at Washco, so WASHCOWISCO.gov.
Nice.
Whew, that's a mouthful.
Nice. And they can email you with any inquiries about invasive species.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yep.
Cool.
And I will do my best if you go on the DNR site under contacts for a lake. I don't know why, but I think it's because it's AIS. I'm the first one that pops up.
Hey.
So I get a ton of just DNR inquiries in general, and I have to reroute them. So I'm great at that. So Sweet. If you have any questions, just
awesome.
Yeah, let me know.
Well, that's cool to know. It was awesome having you. I mean, we covered a ton of subjects having to do with aquatic invasive species, but I think you need to come back to keep talking about more.
No, I think we should start a series and have a more focused approach.
Perfect.
Maybe. Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you so much for having me. This was my first podcast ever.
Hey,
I was
you did
very
great.
nervous.
You did great.
So
That's awesome.
Good.
Sweet.
It's all right.